The art of peace is not a passive idea. It's not surrender. It's resistance in its highest form, a resistance that builds instead of destroys, that unites instead of divides. If war is the art of death, peace is the art of life, and to master it is to master the future. In a world where chaos often masquerades as strength, choosing peace is a revolutionary act. As the ancient philosopher Lao Tzu once said, to win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the highest skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting, that is the highest of all. That is the art of peace. And history has proven it, not with fleeting headlines or short-term applause, but with legacies that echo across generations. In this video, we will journey through the lives and actions of 3 of the greatest peace warriors to ever walk this earth: Mahatma Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Jesus of Nazareth. Each of them stood against empires, hatred, and injustice, not with swords, but with truth. Their weapons were love, justice, and relentless inner strength, and what they built through peace continues to shape our world today. Their stories aren't just historical anecdotes. They are blueprints for true power, for real courage, for lasting change. So stay with us until the end, because the conclusion of this video will not only challenge your understanding of peace, it might just awaken the revolutionary within you. Let's begin. To understand the true power of peace, we must look at a man who stood before one of the mightiest empires in history and chose not to fight, but to resist without hatred. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, later known as Mahatma, or Great Soul, didn't just preach peace, he lived it. Even when the world pushed him to break. At a time when India was under the heavy hand of British colonial rule, violence would have seemed justified. Injustice was everywhere. Exploitation, systemic racism, economic oppression, it was all real. And yet, Gandhi chose a different path. He chose non-violence, not because it was easy, but because he believed peace was not weakness, it was moral strength. Through Satyagraha, concept he developed, meaning truth force or soul force, Gandhi led millions in peaceful protests, civil disobedience, and hunger strikes. He taught that the force of love and truth could break chains stronger than any army. He was beaten, imprisoned, ridiculed, but he never raised a fist, because for Gandhi, violence corrupted both the victim and the victor, and he refused to let the oppressor dictate his nature. In 1947, after decades of struggle, India gained its independence from British rule, and it was not won on a battlefield. It was won through conscience, through conviction, through the unshakable will of a man who believed that peace was not just a dream, it was a strategy. But Gandhi's legacy doesn't end with India. His philosophy inspired entire movements around the globe, from civil rights in the US to anti-apartheid in South Africa. He showed the world that you don't have to mirror the violence of your enemy to defeat them. Gandhi didn't just liberate a country, he liberated the idea that true strength comes from within, that peace is not passive, but a force more disruptive than war itself, and that the most powerful revolutions begin in the human heart. The art of peace is the weapon of the wise. Few embodied this truth more powerfully than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't fight with fists or bullets. He didn't conquer through violence or fear. His battlefield was the soul of a divided nation, and his weapon was love, truth, and unwavering peace. Born in the shadows of segregation in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1929, Martin Luther King Jr. was not destined to be just a preacher. He was called to become a messenger of nonviolence in a world addicted to hate. Inspired by Jesus Christ's message of love and Mahatma Gandhi's method of peaceful resistance, King forged a unique philosophy, the belief that only love can drive out hate, only light can cast away darkness. And so, he marched not with rage, but with resolve. He marched in Montgomery, where a simple boycott of buses became a national symbol. He marched in Birmingham, where peaceful protesters were met with dogs and hoses, yet refused to retaliate. He marched on Washington, where his voice, ringing like a bell of justice, declared to the world, I have a dream, but make no mistake, peace is not weakness. Peace, in king's hands, became the sharpest sword. It pierced through the conscience of a nation. While others sought to crush oppression with violence, King understood a higher law, that true transformation begins not by defeating your enemy, but by awakening their humanity. He was arrested. He was beaten. He was threatened, but his love never wavered. From a jail cell in Birmingham, he wrote not with bitterness, but with clarity. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This was not a man reacting in anger. This was a man rooted in purpose, anchored in peace. The civil rights movement was not a war won with weapons. It was a revolution of conscience, ignited by King's unshakable belief that the moral arc of the universe bends toward justice when guided by peaceful hands. And when his life was taken in 1968, his dream did not die. It multiplied. His voice still echoes. His method still inspires. His art of peace still calls us higher, because in a world still torn by division, conflict, and fear, Martin Luther King Jr. left us a blueprint not of revenge, but of redemption. He showed us that peace is not passive. Peace is power. Peace is action. Peace is the most courageous stand one can take in a world obsessed with control. Peace is the weapon of the wise, and Martin Luther King Jr. proved that one peaceful man can shake the foundations of an empire. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. These words, spoken by Jesus of Nazareth, echo through the centuries like a divine whisper that never fades. Not a peace based on treaties, silence, or fear, but a living peace unshakable, indestructible, eternal. Jesus didn't come to avoid conflict. He walked straight into it, armed not with sword or shield, but with the full power of a tranquil and fearless heart. He was peace in motion, a storm walker, a soul soother, a radical force of calm in a world drowning in chaos. Peace as power, not the absence of war, but the presence of truth. To understand the art of peace, you must look at Jesus not only as the Son of God, but as a man who chose the most dangerous path of all, to face darkness with light. To confront power without violence. To expose lies without hatred. To embrace suffering without resentment. His peace was active, never passive. He flipped tables in the temple, not in rage, but in holy indignation, restoring sacred ground. He stood silent before Pilate, not in fear, but in absolute control. He forgave his murderers, not in weakness, but in divine authority. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Master of the inner storm when the sea raged and the disciples feared for their lives, Jesus stood and spoke three words: peace, be still, and nature obeyed. But the real storm he calmed was inside them. Fear, doubt, panic, because Jesus knew, until peace lives in you, it will never live around you. He didn't come just to change history. He came to transform hearts. Enemy of empire, friend of souls, challenged the Pharisees not with rebellion, but with wisdom. He walked among the lepers, the prostitutes, the tax collectors, not with judgment, but with pure presence. He saw beyond titles, beyond sin, beyond shame. He saw the eternal spark in each person. To the woman caught in adultery, whom the law demanded be stoned, he offered no stone, only mercy. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And one by one, the accusers dropped their weapons, because peace disarms more effectively than war ever could. The ultimate surrender, not defeat, but victory. When the moment of death came, Jesus could have escaped. He had the power to command angels, to call fire, to vanish into safety, but he chose the cross, not because he was weak, but because he was infinitely strong. He absorbed the hatred of the world and gave back only love. He received betrayal and answered with loyalty. He was crowned with thorns and responded with a crown of eternal life. And from the cross, instead of revenge, he offered redemption. This is not just theology. This is the most powerful demonstration of peace the world has ever known. Resurrected peace, the revolution that never ended on the third day. He rose, and in doing so, He declared once and for all, peace is not fragile, peace is not passive, peace is not weak. It is resurrection. His followers were no longer afraid. The same men who once hid behind locked doors walked into cities proclaiming love. Even under threat of death, they had seen what peace could do. They had touched the eternal, the invitation to walk in. His footsteps just did not come to build empires. He came to awaken eternity in the hearts of men. He didn't promise an easy life, but a meaningful one. One marked by inner stillness, by forgiveness, by courageous compassion. The art of peace isn't about being untouched by the world. It's about entering the world fully, and yet remaining anchored in something deeper, a kingdom not made of stone, but of spirit. For those who hear the Caliph, this message stirred something within you. Don't let it end here. Like, share, subscribe, not just to support this channel but to help spread a revolution that started over 2,000 years ago and has never stopped. Let the world hear this truth again. Peace is the strongest force in the universe when it is rooted in truth, anchored in love, and expressed through the life of someone who will not be moved. Be that person. Be the peacemaker. Be the living proof. Walk like Jesus, and you will never walk alone.